Okay, calling the Public Works Committee meeting for Monday, November 14th at 6:30 p.m. to order. Please call the roll.
Crumpets,
Here.
Labrie,
Here.
Kushein,
Here.
Pania Costello, Brooks.
Okay, seeing that we have a quorum, Councilor. Oh, and for the record, Councilor Corshane is participating remotely on Zoom. And also in the room with us is DPW Superintendent Elizabeth Batista, Doug Ellis, City Engineer, Assistant to the Superintendent, John Boyer, and probably one of the most powerful people in the room, Mayor, the Mayor's Chief of Staff. Thank you. I was going to say Mayor's Assistant, but Mayor's Chief of Staff, Mike Pease, and also City Planner Lee Pouliot. That's it. And then Chris from IT and Carla from our office. And a new arrival.
Holly.
And Captain Cody has joined us as well. So. And I'm going to join you too. Oh, and Councilor LaFlamme, President LaFlamme, and Dan Garvey, our attorney. Councilor Corshane had asked, because he is doing this remotely, that if we could take item 6 out of order, which is the Public Works Subcommittee meet to discuss overgrowth on city property. Can I have a
I'll make
motion
a
for that?
motion to take item 6 out of order.
Can you please call the roll for that?
Councilors Crumpets,
Yes.
Labrie,
Yes.
Kushein,
Yes.
Pania Costello, Brooks.
Okay, item number 6, be it ordered that the Public Works Subcommittee meet with the mayor and DPW superintendent to discuss overgrowth of city property, particularly residents' concerns of overgrowth in downtown Chicopee. I believe this order was filed by Councilors Corshane and LaFlamme and Brooks as well. Councilor Brooks, okay, and yourself. So I guess if you can lead off, Councilor LaFlamme on the order. Oh. You can come and join us or sit at the desk, whatever.
As I mentioned in the meeting, I received a letter from a resident who supported me and took my picture and said one of the things that I would do is help keep Chicopee clean. And she said it's not being done, especially downtown. And she actually was a resident, worked for the city of Chicopee for a long period of time. So I walked around this with Shane, and we looked at some of the. Let me just say this: Shane Brooks I just got off the phone. He's very sick right now, so that's why he's not on tonight. I just got off the phone with him. So downtown and throughout the city, actually, we have issues with overgrowth and in cleaning of our own city property. I understand some of it's very hard to do. I know Liz and the DBW, all of them, they've been working hard, whether it be with a cul-de-sacs, getting them done using ROCA, is it ROCA? ROCA and some other groups. They're trying. But we're on a situation now, and I spoke to the mayor about this, and Mike was in that meeting with me. And one of the things I'm looking to do in the near future is the city is right now overgrown, and it's hard to bring it back to a workable situation where you only have to spend a small amount of time keeping up the city properties. So one of the things I spoke to the mayor of is maybe in the future going off to RFP to do some construction of getting the trees down or brush down to lower where in the future, like downtown, we can have them maintain the smaller stuff. Because it's just, we're on top of it. And give you a good example, Prospect Street, we go up Prospect Street all the time, and the trees are they clean it all the time, 2-3 times a year. Liz goes up there because it's a safety issue. So that's city property, but she does that there because of the fact that that person coming out of there, going up Buckley Boulevard, Prospect Street, Buckley Boulevard, can't even see. So this is what I'm saying about, we need to get it, uh, maybe in a contractor route in RFP, and the mayor is going to look into that. He does want to, and if you notice, he's already started downtown bringing some mulch down in that. But that's, we need to do in the springtime and to make it look good for the whole season. But he's trying to answer some of the questions that are being done by getting downtown right now. So we need to get into a program in the future, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, he's also looking at maybe making a landscaping division in the DPW or something like that. Correct, Mike? Or in the future, something. Looking at someone that can keep doing that, because full-time, that's what we need. So that's why we brought it forward. And we're going to work with the mayor's office and the DPW, however we can work this out. It needs to be done. We ask everybody else to do it. We need to do our own.
Okay, thank you. Liz or Mike, do you want to respond, or who wants to respond first?
Counselor Laflamme, he kind of didn't really pose a question. I mean, we do our best to maintain what we're responsible for, as he said. We're short-staffed, but we try to make it out there regularly when possible. I know we've been getting a lot of criticism for overtime, but when we're short-staffed, that's when we handle, maintaining of the growth. It's more doable. You get more done when you do it. But the mayor and I and Mike, we have talked about potentially adding somebody who would be responsible for landscaping, but I'm not sure when we'll be able to implement something. We do our best. We use ROCA. We use our staff. We assist with City Hall maintenance right now. I know that they're building up their own facilities department so that they can do more around City Hall. So.
Sure, Councilor Costello?
I'm sorry. Did you guys look into the school department and the kids that are studying landscaping at Career Tech?
So yeah, we've actually partnered with the horticulture group. The problem is that they can only assist during their what do they call it? Not the class time, the
Lab time?
lab time, and only during the school year. So that limits us to when they can help out. So the summer's off limits. So, for them, they did help us with the project, kind of a little bit, when we did a land swap over on Sand Trap. But, it's limited, unfortunately.
Plus, they also help the school department themselves.
Right.
They have a lot of properties.
I wonder, maybe it's legal that they can't work during the summer, I don't know, for credit or whatever. I don't know if you,
I think it's about having available staff
okay.
and, the kids not being in the school year working.
Yeah, there's nobody to supervise. How often does ROCA go off? They're tremendous.
We get them 2 weeks a month right now, right? 2 weeks a month. And we split their time between Parks Department, because they assist Parks Department with a lot of their maintenance work, and just general city work, whether it be litter, landscaping. They've helped move files for City Hall for auditing when we have to do that. It takes a lot of labor. So, they've been kind of like, been a very huge help.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bill, do you have, going to Zoom, Bill, do you have any questions or anything?
I just wanted to piggyback on Councilor Brooks's order because besides Brooklyn Boulevard, which has been an ongoing issue, and I know it's difficult, a lot of that's Holyoke Water and Electric that owns all that property on the dike side. But my biggest two areas of city property are Irene Street by Roberts Pond. That's, I won't say it's never maintained, but it obviously gets overgrown over a foot before it gets attacked. And I understand the shortages, so this isn't a criticism. It's just a pointing out of an issue. Right now, that sidewalk is totally covered in leaves. You can't see the cement, and it's dangerous. And I know there's leaves along that fence line that have been there for 4 or 5 years that haven't been taken care of. So I'm hoping we can focus on that, maybe with Roca, get that all cleaned up. And then the other one is on Charpenter Boulevard with the 5 islands that are owned by the city. I put in at least 3 or 4 years worth of orders to have those maintained by the city. And it's still not happening. So I'm just kind of curious when that's going to start to get on the mowing list.
Liz?
We have a list. We do our best again to hit all of our cul-de-sacs, islands. Right now, we're about 10 people short in highway department, and we're back to where we were a few years ago, unfortunately. So when we, and not a lot of people willing to work overtime, believe it or not. So we do our best to get through things, and they're all on the list.
Right. It's been 17 years and it has been mowed once by the city. And I know you weren't here for
Where?
those times on Charpenter Boulevard, the 5 islands. And the residents have semi-maintained it. My just concern is one of these days a rock's going to fling or somebody's going to get hurt, and now we're on the hook for the liability because some people
You know what
have.
You know what it is, Councilor Cushane? You have to also remember, in the past, a lot of residents would help with that stuff. Whether it be cutting cul-de-sacs or, maintaining extra tree belt area, or, so it's there's a lot of area in the city, so when you have a shortfall in your staff, I can't speak to 17 years. I can only speak to the last 4 that I've been sitting in this position. And so, we're doing our best. All I can say is we'll make sure it's on the list, and we'll get to it. We have a lot of things going on between potholes, sinkholes, structure repairs, sidewalks. It becomes a huge task. So we do our best.
No,
And if you find that you're not getting, if you find that you're not getting things accomplished through See Click Fix, just shoot me an email.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a
Because
criticism.
I haven't gotten anything about Irene Street.
Well, I send C-click fixes for those when it gets to about a foot, because I don't jump on it too soon because I understand your shortfall in staffing. It's been like that since you came on board. It's been like that for years. 5 years ago, I had a restitution crew all set up to come out and do some of the work in the city, but unfortunately, the city and the union shot it down because it's union work. So, as much as I understand your shortfall in staffing, I've tried my best to help you with that through other resources, which would have been free to the city, so it's a win. But like I said, it's not a criticism. I just did it.
So the restitution crew you're speaking of is through the sheriff's department, and I know that the mayor has been speaking with the sheriff about getting their assistance. And it only becomes an issue with employees and the union is if it's taking away overtime opportunity. So if the overtime is being offered and there's a restitution crew out there working, then it doesn't become an issue. It more has to do with if we're trying to use free services in lieu of paying overtime. That's when it becomes a problem.
No, I understand. It's just, like I said, it was 5 years ago. I toured with the person in charge of that crew. We looked at Buckley Boulevard, the islands, a few others, because they do Chicopee housing. So it's convenient for them just to shoot over a few feet, per se. But the union, our city law department, Marshall Moriarty, all them, they shot it down. I got a big email about why they can't do it, because it's not so much we're not doing it, but we could do it, so you can't do it is really what it came down to. So I'm hoping those roadblocks are maybe lifted 5 years later, and we can help you guys out with some bodies. But like I said, it's not a criticism.
I believe the sheriff's department might be assisting with some of the work in the center in the future. So
right. So it could be,
I would say that's if there were roadblocks, that sounds like they've been lifted.
Yep, sounds good. But like I said, definitely not a criticism. I know you guys and the men and women of the DPW are working their butts off trying to get the work done because there's more of the work than there is people. So I just wanted to bring those up so maybe they'll get going a little bit. That's all I got.
Fred, I just.
And I'd just like to recognize Councilor Tillotson, who's on Zoom as well. Jim, is there anything you'd like to add? Guess not, okay.
No, no, no,
Counselor
no.
Costello?
Yeah, if you got Roca and you might get the restitution crew through the sheriff's department, how about contacting Chicopee District Court probationers are on community service orders all the time.
That
8 hours a month.
Wouldn't that be through the sheriff's department
No,
too?
no, that would be, I could look into it for you because I was there, but their community service program that was started by Judge Hurley many years ago became very successful. So it was before Roca and it was before, I think, even the sheriff's department. People are on probation, they have to pay a $65 a month probation fee. They're not able to do that because of lack of income, so the judge can order in lieu of the probation fee, community service.
Is there a program where there's somebody who supervises them while they're doing the work?
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you want, I can look into it
Yeah.
for Fred. And he's very thorough. It's an actual program. They have a little van, every court has one, and they go out and they do the community service work. So I'll look into it. Actually, I'd like to, because then I can go back and see people.
All set, Mary Beth?
All set, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Laflamme?
Just a quick comment. As Liz mentioned, you know, the residents got to try to help out once in a while too. And we do that in our cul-de-sac. We did the leaves on Saturday. Because they're out there all the time. And I just had a quick question off this, but how did the fair go for new employees for DPW?
Well, the job fair was very well attended. I was pleasantly surprised. There was a lot of people with
Interest.
licenses that could meet, who would be candidates for DPW. So I'm not sure if they've applied yet through HR, but, hopefully something comes of it.
Good. And the second thing is, I just want to mention the mayor's office, on our discussion about this whole thing, is, he also was working with the state, because the main thing was when you come down the bottom Granby Road, there's that wall, that's got the steel, and then it has the, I want to say concrete, barriers, and then the trees are growing through those, and it's just decaying all the concrete. So I know the mayor's office been trying to work with the state on that, trying to get that area done, because that's their responsibility. It's not the city's responsibility. So that there is where we want to be concerned, because you get to the bottom, there's a crosswalk when you get down to turn to go to the left, as you go over the bridge to the right side of the bridge. So he's been working on stuff. He's hoping to get a program going for the spring, not the fall, but the spring, to get downtown and other areas of the city. So I think we're going to move ahead with it. Thank you.
Counselor Corshane?
Just a point of information through the chair to President Laflamme. The state was out there about a month ago, cutting everything back and cleaning all that up. So that's been taken care of.
Yes. Thank you.
Is-
But if I can answer that, that's the reason why I was saying we need someone to take these. They're not just little brush. There's trees growing through them, and they're just going to continuously grow. And he's looking to get that wall fixed so that it doesn't do that. So in the future. So that's what we're talking about. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. This is kind of what I've written down so far, and I would imagine it'll probably just be placed on file, but DPW to work with the mayor for overtime, investigate additional resources such as the sheriff's department, Roca, et cetera. Any, want to add on to that, or any other comments? Can I have a motion to place
Motion
on
to
file?
place on file.
Please call the roll.
Councilors Crumpets,
Yes.
Labrie,
Yes.
Kushein,
Yes.
Piniac Costello,
Yes.
Brooks.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Oh, okay, all right. 4 in favor? And against? Okay, now we'll go back to, our regular order of agenda. Item 1, be it ordered that DPW install a curb barrier at 800 Prospect Street. This was filed by, Counselor Piniac Costello, so I will turn it over to her.
Thank you.
The order?
I did meet with Doug Ellis about this several months ago. It's, a very narrow intersection, Prospect Street. This gentleman's house is almost onto James Street as well, so it's about 19 feet wide. So cars go onto his property when he's cutting the grass, and he put up his own little, curb barrier made out of like a telephone pole or something. So, I didn't think that that was a safe way to resolve the problem. So I would ask Doug Ellis to, kind of explain what the situation is from a city engineer's perspective.
Doug?
Hi, good evening. Yeah, that area, that all relies on country drainage, so if we were to put curbing there, we were, probably gonna wind up with puddles in the road. So, while, I know the road is narrow there, but it has been for some time, so. I know he had like timber, curbing in there about, 2011, and it's slowly been removed, but we can't put, bituminous curbing in there because it would cause a problem with drainage, because we rely on the drain, the water going off the side of the road.
Okay, I'll tell him.
It would move the problem just to the intersection essentially, just beyond that area, which would create puddles and unsafe location because there's no.
Good. I'll tell him, which is good. Thank you. So I would move to place on file.
Okay, well, I think, Counselor Flam wanted to speak.
Off the property, like just some reflectors, instead of him putting his own personal stuff on city property. Just like a pipe with a, small reflector just to guide them away, and it won't affect the water. It's just a question.
I would hate to put anything vertical that would put us in a position that if somebody hit it, I don't know. I mean, if you're talking about those little stick reflectors, I mean, anybody can do
No.
that,
The ones they put on the highways as you go down sometimes. No, they're just like our sign, but they have a reflector on them.
They're delineators.
Right.
Basically like he's right, like John just said, like a mile marker. Even if they're plastics, the thick plastic that they can, it's just
My only
just a
problem
question.
is that
Can't be
one,
done.
if somebody hits it and it's like this post in the ground and somebody gets hurt, if it breaks, then we're now liable to replace it every time it breaks. I feel like, we're kind of trying to make an accommodation for one person, whereas this would become a problem throughout the city where there is country drainage that we rely on. Yeah,
All right.
No,
yeah.
I'm just questioning. I mean,
Yeah.
that wouldn't hurt the flow of the water.
No, it wouldn't, but it would create another issue.
Okay, just a question. Thank you. I'm okay. That's her decision.
Anyone on Zoom?
I have a question. Yeah, I just looked it up on
Counselor
the
Bree?
Google Maps here, and he's got like a, telephone poles there?
Yeah.
Are you looking on the one, on his side where he's got it buried in the ground?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, is that a problem with the plows, or,
Well, no, I mean, the
No.
plows just wood, so the plows just tear through it.
yeah, okay, I was just curious if, it doesn't look good, but I can understand how we can run off water though with that there. All set.
Okay. Anyone else?
Motion to place on file, please.
please call the roll.
Councilors Crumpets,
Yes.
Labrie,
Yes.
Kushein,
Yes.
Piniac Costello,
Yes.
Brooks.
Thank you, Dan.
I saw that happening. I was like,
Workman's comp.
no, you don't want him out.
I'm here.
We're in favor of placing on file.
Alrighty.
All right, item agenda number 2. Be it ordered that the ordinance subcommittee meet to discuss drive-throughs and potential for city council to require a special permit to construct one. But I think the order actually did get sent to Public Works, and then we would review it and then send it to ordinance after we reviewed it. So that's why it just says ordinance on it. This was filed by Councilor Dobis and Councilor Piniac Costello. I don't think Councilor Dobis is on the line, so I will turn it over to Councilor Costello.
Thank you. Basically, Counselor Dobas and I have concerns about drive-throughs and the backup traffic that drive-throughs create, especially on Ketty Boulevard, where there's Dairy Queen, and there's a potential for a lot of problems, a lot of safety issues in regards to their drive-through, because it's a small, narrow street and the cars are parked all along Ketty Boulevard. So we felt that some discussion should be done in regards to drive-throughs and how they could be implemented better, because the Dairy Queen issue is a safety concern, and the neighbors there have a very difficult time getting in and out of Dairy Queen and out of Ketty Boulevard when it's busy. Thank you. That's it.
Anyone else have any? Well, actually, I'll turn it over to either Lee or Elizabeth. Okay, then I will, or to Doug, but I will let Lee lead off.
Thank you, Councilor Crumpets. So I guess I am here to review how a new drive-through would be approved for construction. Drive-throughs are not called out as a specific use in our zoning code. They're associated with a primary use. So you would have a drive-through associated with a bank, a drive-through ATM, or a drive-through associated with a restaurant. And we also have drive-throughs today that are associated with a retail marijuana establishment. But they're not primary uses in and of their own. They're an accessory use to some other use on a property. The zoning code itself does not specify requirements for drive-throughs. Requirements for drive-throughs are established under the planning board site plan regulations. And these particular regs have been in effect since 2005. The planning board, through the site plan regulations, has established very specific dimensional requirements for new drive-throughs. And just for the record, I will read what those are. Section 2-21 of the Planning Board Site Plan Regulations note, insofar as possible, developers are encouraged to locate drive-through windows on the sides of buildings abutting other businesses, commercial or industrially zoned property, In no instance shall any drive-through be located within 25 feet of residentially zoned property. The 25-foot distance shall be measured from the outside edge of the travel lane servicing the drive-through window to the nearest residentially zoned property boundary. So if and when a proposal for a drive-through comes to the planning board, if it requires a public hearing for a full plan set, the board would be looking for confirmation that that was met as part of its review process. I think it's important to note that there is a difference between something that is existing and something that is new. So we would obviously not have sort of any retroactive ability to go request changes to something that's been in existence, particularly for a very long period of time. But if the drive-through was not in compliance with this dimensional requirements as set forth in the site plan regs, then in redevelopment, the board will look to have it come into compliance. The only other way that a drive-through existing being redeveloped or new would be reviewed is through site plan review, either site plan review with no public hearing with our department heads or site plan review with a public hearing with the planning board. We recently have seen a number of fast food restaurants renovate their drive-through windows to increase capacity and to deal with vehicle backlog. Obviously, through the pandemic, takeout became extremely popular, and so what was designed for a certain serviceability was inadequate. So we've seen Dunkin' Donuts on Front Street redo theirs, McDonald's on Memorial Drive redo theirs. We've seen improvements with the complete redevelopment of the Wendy's property, all to increase capacity and to ensure that there isn't a backlog of vehicles going out into roadways. I think the Dunkin' Donuts on Front Street, since it's opened or reopened, is a really good example of how that has been successful. But regardless, with either a redevelopment or new, the site plan review committee, which is your standard reviewing departments, DPW, engineering, water, fire, police, planning, conservation, all review those before comments are aggregated into conditions for SPRAC or for conditions that the planning board can consider. I think the people in this room behind me are the experts when it comes to traffic, and so if there was a concern, the planning board in particular would look to these experts as to whether or not more work needed to be done on the plans to address them. But outside of that, that is the review process for a drive-through.
Doug or Liz, anything you want to add on to that, or?
No, for Lee was very.
Hi.
Councilor Costello?
Yeah, recently the drive-through at McDonald's on Memorial Drive was added to from one, I think, to two drive-throughs.
That's correct. They added a lane for orders.
You mentioned a planning board hearing. Was there a planning board hearing for that particular proposal?
There was not, because planning board hearings were not triggered for that project. It did not meet the scale for a planning board hearing. So that only received a SPRAC review, which is the review with our departments. And then the entity, the franchisee there, worked with my staff to meet all of the, to address all of the comments from our reviewing departments before they were allowed to apply for building permits.
Okay, so there was no need for that particular request for a public hearing. Can you give me an example of where a public hearing would be needed in regards to a drive-through? Because I think what we would like to see when Councilor Dobas and I spoke about this is to have more public hearings with drive-throughs. Because drive-throughs, yeah, go ahead.
Wouldn't it be like if you were going to reroute the traffic through a drive-through, like refigure a drive-through entirely? So at McDonald's, where they just added an extra lane. No, they didn't change the flow through the parking lot.
Right, so the zoning code establishes specific dimensional metrics by which we determine whether or not just SPRAC or planning board public hearing is triggered for a particular project. Site plan review only, so SPRAC, no public hearing, is triggered for development projects with footprints from 1,000 square feet to 7,500 square feet in specific zoning districts. Paving projects that include more than 4,000 square feet of new pavement. Paving projects of less than 4,000 square feet of new pavement that when added to existing pavement is in excess of 4,000 square feet, and all municipal projects. Public hearings with the planning board are triggered under 3 situations. When a development project has a footprint of 1,000 square feet or more in residential A, B, or C zones, which excludes single, 2, or 3 family residential buildings. Development projects with a footprint of 7,500 square feet or more in most of our commercial, business, and industrial districts. And then development projects with a footprint of 1,000 square feet or more in those same districts whenever the subject property abuts or is within 100 feet of any residential zone. So in the specific case of Dairy Queen, if you want to talk about that one specific, the redevelopment of that property, should it ever come up, would trigger a planning board public hearing.
Because of the proximity with the single family house.
Correct. Residential A zoning.
Yep.
But it also has to have that footprint of 1,000 square feet, which is why it was not triggered for McDonald's.
Other districts, I mean, do they have, when they do drive-throughs, do they, maybe this is an unfair question, but I would like the general information. Do they have, when they're near single-family homes, do they generally have public hearings through the planning board that you're aware of?
You mean other communities?
Yeah.
No, I don't think I know of any community that separates drive-throughs as a separate use. So it's very critical to think about this from what the primary use is. We interpret drive-throughs to be an accessory to something. It supports a primary use. So restaurant with a drive-through, bank with a drive-through, marijuana retail with a drive-through. You would never sort of have a standalone drive-through without it serving some other use. It's just a mechanism by which that entity conducts business. So the other communities that I'm familiar enough with would do review of a drive-through through their version of site plan review. Not very many communities do things like we do. We have a very efficient process. But you know, again, whether it's just SPRAC or public hearings with the planning board, we're relying on your experts in DPW to give either my staff or the planning board the information they need to make an informed decision about whether or not the design of that drive-through is appropriate.
See, the complaints that I get is about the location of it. Actually, banks aren't a problem. It's basically restaurants, like McDonald's, like Dairy Queen. That's where the problems are. So I don't, you know, I just want to protect the residents that live there in regards to traffic flow, trash, noise, because I do get a lot of complaints.
Yeah, I would caution the council that you cannot treat one drive-through differently than another. It's an accessory use to some by right permitted use in the district. So they all have to be treated the same, or you're calling out a specific primary use for a different set of requirements. So by today's standards, anyone who wants to build a drive-through has to meet the board's dimensional requirements, which tries to keep them farther away from residential property as is.
I noticed that when I drive through other communities and I look at their development in regards to, say, West Springfield or Hadley, a lot of their businesses are not near residential homes like ours are. Ours are very close, maybe when it was built back in the 1950s or 60s, but very close to residential homes.
Yeah, and that is a factor of how each community's zoning regulations were developed. So Chicopee did not adopt zoning until 1940, and when we adopted zoning in 1940, there was a lot of speculation about where business and commercial corridors would be, and that speculation ended up with zoning of a lot of business corridors that directly abut residential A zoning. And that is a legacy situation that we deal with today. And the Memorial Drive corridor is a perfect example. They either planned that way in the 1940s for it to become a major commercial corridor, or they adopted policy to make it become a commercial corridor.
Okay.
But the original zoning from 1940 shows business abutting residential A behind it.
I can remember when I was on the planning board for many years, the solution was, we'll put up shrubs. They were very close to the homes, but they felt that the shrub was enough of a border to protect them. And I just didn't agree with that.
Yeah, that's still a regulation today. Wherever we have business development abutting residential development, a solid fence or evergreen hedge minimum of 6 feet in height must be established as part of the project.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you.
Councilor Laflamme?
Yeah, hey, Lee, just a quick question. You said, what triggers, the SPRAC review versus a public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned, asphalt. What was the amount of asphalt you said?
Sure. So for a SPRAC review, paving projects, including 4,000 square feet or more of impervious surface in any zone would get a SPRAC review. And that's mostly because
That's
we have
department heads.
That's department heads.
Yep, okay, go ahead.
The second trigger for paving projects is if the new pavement is less than 4,000 square feet, but it's being added to existing pavement that in the aggregate, new and old, is in excess of 4,000 square feet. It would also trigger SPRAC, department heads.
And that wouldn't, what goes for a public hearing? Which one?
Paving projects.
That's nothing. The reason I ask that is because of drainage.
Right. So we in any pavement, even with just SPRAC review, so department heads, a full stormwater design and report is submitted to us, and we turn that over to engineering for review. And that's why it's a SPRAC review. It's just typically a parking lot.
No, the reason, and again, I know where Mary Beth's going because I went up and looked at it. It's good. I mean, she mentioned that, make sure what's the best for the residents, and I'm sure you guys do a good job at, thinking of the city and the residents whenever the planning board or the SPRAC review makes decisions on what they do. Because we may not always agree, but I know you guys work hard at doing it. But the drainage is one of the ones that I get a call a couple of times, will it go in my yard, because they don't know the flow of how the new asphalt's going to be.
Correct.
Most people pitch it away from their house, and they're so close to a fence line like McDonald's is right now. And I agree with you that, we can't say single each one out separately, and we have to really leave it up to the SPRAC committee to come up with the alternatives for us. Although we may not agree with it, it's the best solution at this time using all the professionals. So.
Right, and in regards to stormwater, I would just say that whenever we have any new project automatically is required to comply with our current stormwater standards. When we have a property that comes up for redevelopment, oftentimes their existing system is not in compliance with today's stormwater standards, and compliance is triggered by the redevelopment of the property. So we work with Doug, we work with Liz to review their proposed upgrades to make sure that they're coming into compliance.
And when a project comes through SPRAC review, specifically if you're concerned about drainage onto abutting properties, they can't. We require them to grade the pavement and pretty much their site so that it does not pitch towards their abutting property.
Correct.
Yeah, that's, so and then my last question is what she just mentioned about she didn't like when she was on the planning board, the trees. So what if, the new driveway was put, in McDonald's and it would, be closer to their fence? The lights, how would you would deal with that with SPRAC too, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
So just like with the city hall parking lot, the property owner submits a lighting plan which shows where the lighting is kind of
Focused.
reflecting to. Yeah.
Correct.
So, that it's not focusing on neighboring property and all that stuff.
And it's not written into our regulations, but for lighting, we generally say, the board and staff, typically request strongly that, applicants use all dark sky compliant fixtures. And for all wall mounted light packs that are on buildings, that they be shielded, vertically down to the ground so that there's no light pollution leaving the property.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom? Jim or Bill? Okay,
Motion to place on file?
motion to place on file, seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilors Crumpets,
Yes.
Labrie,
Yes.
Kushein,
Yes.
Piniac Costello,
Yes.
Brooks.
We're in favor. Okay, next item on the agenda. Be it ordered that the city engineer and the superintendent of DPW appear before the Public Works Subcommittee to discuss safety concerns at the intersection of Voss and Blanchard Street. This order was filed by, Councilors, Costello and Laflamme.
Yeah, this issue's been greatly addressed. The neighbors are very happy. This has been a situation for 35 years that, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Okay. For 35 years that there was water buildup in the winter, the water turned to ice. Cars and buses were sliding. So I want to thank publicly, the superintendent of public works, Batista, as well as the city engineer, Ellis, because they really came and helped this particular area and neighborhood in regards to safety and fixing a problem that was outstanding for a long time. So this was a wonderful experience for the people in that general area as well as people that travel there. Thank you, Liz, and thank you.
Comments from Doug?
Highway did a great job.
They did a great job.
And engineering did a great job putting the plans together.
They did, you guys did. Thank you.
Any comments from the police department about safety at the intersection? Thank you. Other comments? Comments, on Zoom?
No.
Okay, can I have a motion to place on file?
File, please.
Oh, did you have a question, Gary?
No.
Oh, okay. and please call the roll.
Councilors Crumpets,
Yes.
Labrie? Yes. Kushein?
Yes.
Kenny Costello?
Yes.
Brooks?
Yeah. I haven't been there for a couple of weeks. I know every time we go in there. Go there a lot?
Oh. What were you laughing at about?
Oh, does he? Tommy likes it. I have a friend that lives out
Again?
there, so that's where we go. Yeah. Thank you. Rule here and.
Four in favor? Against? All right.
Yeah.
You have a great time.
All right, item number 4. Be it ordered that a portion of Grape Street in the, let me read that again. Be it ordered that a portion of Grape Street in the city of Chicopee be discontinued in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 82, Section 21. See attachment. This order was filed by Councilor Laflamme.
I may.
Councilor Garvey?
This was an order that was actually passed by the council, but it required a public hearing. I believe perhaps DPW has more information on it, but my understanding is that there was a portion of Grape Street that we were gonna discontinue, so the abutter, the residential abutter, could rebuild his wall to make it a safer area, I
So
believe.
yeah, this is where there's a resident who has a retaining wall that is completely on, city right of way. And it's the wall that actually supports where his house is and his driveway. So the wall is in really poor condition, and so this was us, kind of fixing the whole property line situation. We don't need that as right of way. We don't want ownership of the wall or the liability, so this is us giving them this property that they've been encroaching on for who knows how long.
Else want to add anything? I believe there's already been assessment, from one of the emails I read, there's already been an assessment of the value of the property and all of that's occurred.
Yes, yeah.
Doug? Yep.
I think the assessor's office provided that, yeah.
All right, okay. I believe all parties are in agreement, so this is essentially this and the next order, are for the, essentially for the abandonment to occur.
Yeah, I've canvassed all the departments, nobody has issue with us abandoning that portion of the right of way.
What would the order be? To approve the
I make the motion to approve.
abandonment or the,
New
approve the discontinuance of parcel.
Yeah, Ed
Yes,
Chapdelaine
there's an
has come up with a
attached,
plan on that.
Plan. Yes, attached plan, drawing number 935382, Yep. Approve discontinuance of the parcel as described in the attached plan. No questions here. Any questions from Zoom? No. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Seconded?
The chair seconds, don't you?
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, all right.
Please call the roll.
Councilors Crumpets,
Yes.
Labrie,
Yes.
Kushein,
Yes.
Piniac Costello,
Yes.
Brooks.
Oh, somebody already did it. Right, please.
And the discontinuance has been approved 4-0. And order number 5. Be it ordered that a portion of Grape Street previously discontinued to be abandoned in accordance with the city code section 28-9, and the mayor to be authorized to convey this parcel to the abutter in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15. See attached. Just to our attorney, just for general information, what's the difference between this order and the previous one? It sounds like this is basically authorizing the mayor to be able to sell the property to the abutter. Okay, all right. So this is actually the abandonment of portion, okay. All right.
Motion to
Doug,
abandon?
well, hold on. Doug or Liz, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, I mean, that was the process
The same-
that had to be
Okay,
happened.
all right.
Yeah.
Just wanted to
Motion to
check.
abandon?
Anyone
you,
on
Attorney
Zoom have
Garvey.
any questions? Okay. Basically, what I have here is, approve abandonment of the parcel as described in the attachment, and the mayor to convey this, parcel to the abutter. Have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Councilors
Second it.
Crumpets,
Yes.
Labrie,
Yes.
Kushein,
Yes.
Piniac Costello, Brooks.
So the next item is to approve minutes of May 5th. Motion to approve.
Oh, well, let me just get this done. Okay.
Okay.
Have it signed off.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I signed for Bill, so.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
A motion to approve the minutes. What do you think?
Just read this in. 4 in favor, 0 against, and motion to, second to, approve, to
Minutes.
accept the minutes from,
May
May
5th.
5th, 2002.
Yeah,
Con-
motion to,
Please call the roll.
Councilors Crampas,
Yes.
Labrie, Kushein,
Yes.
Piniac Costello,
yes.
Brooks.
Thank you, and can I have a motion to
To adjourn, motion to adjourn.
Please call the roll.
Councilors Crampas,
Yes.
Labrie, Kushein,
Yes.
Piniac Costello, Brooks.
All in favor, we're adjourned. Thank you all.